This module presents JavaScript language. You can find in this first slide my email address in order to contact me if you need. To introduce JavaScript, I can say that it improves interactivity in web pages. A simple HTML page is called static with JavaScript to improve interactivity. It's an extension to HTML code. It's simple and easy to learn. JavaScript does not need any special program to be installed. Scripts are managed directly by browser, and because of JavaScript is independent of the server and we don't need waiting for the response of the server, JavaScript is rapid. Indeed, the main characteristic of JavaScript is its independency of the server. With the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, user interaction with application is made by a series of requests and responses between client and server. The client-server architecture shows that when client machine wants to display a web page, it sends a request for the uniform resource locator address to the server. The client machine waits for a response from the server. So using JavaScript avoids waiting for the server responses. Something very important to know is that we should not confuse between JavaScript and Java. JavaScript is not Java, even if both of them are used to create web pages and resume the same term Java. JavaScript and Java are two different tools. In this table, we can see 5 elements that make them different. In JavaScript, the code is integrated in HTML page, whereas Java is language programming of applets which are out of HTML page. JavaScript code is interpreted during the execution of one page, whereas Java is a code compiled before execution. Simple but limited code is used in JavaScript, whereas Java is more complex but more performant. JavaScript permits access to browser objects, whereas it's not possible with Java. JavaScript code is visible and non-confidential, whereas Java code is a compiled code and so not secure. So what do you need when you use JavaScript? First, you need a compiled JavaScript compatible browser. It's not a problem because now all known browsers are compatible to JavaScript. Second, you need a good knowledge of HTML. I would say a very good knowledge of HTML. And third, you need a good text editor. Don't worry, the simple notepad can be very useful. I'll give an advice here. Using a complete editor application could modify your code, so avoid using complete editors. Let's see here what can be a minimum JavaScript. Don't forget that we are in HTML page, and in HTML we are using markers. A marker is written with the symbols lower than and greater than. A marker is indicating that we are using JavaScript is script. One attribute should be put is language equal JavaScript. Why? Because it is possible to write scripts in Visual Basic and then it would be put VB script. Ending the script necessitates adding a slash before the word script. Comments are very important in any programming language. In JavaScript, if we have one line comment, we use double slash at the beginning and at the end. And if we have multiple lines, we use slash star. Just to remind that comments in HTML are written differently. Where to insert scripts in HTML page? You should know that when a page is treated by a browser, it's done from the top to the bottom of the page. The browser executes one instruction only if it contains all necessary elements. So JavaScript could be inserted at several places. First, in the head marker of the page, which is before the body marker. Second, it could be put in the body marker And third, it could be put using an event sensor, for example, onClick, which is the event or the action of click with a mouse. Your first HTML with JavaScript will look like this HTML page. The script here is inserted in the body marker and contain one instruction, an instruction with a predefined JavaScript function named alert used to display text. When used, a text box appears in the screen with the text in question. The semicolon is compulsory at the end of the instruction. When using JavaScript, there is an important theory to know. It's about objects. What happens when you open your browser on a web page? JavaScript will divide it in objects. It will permit you to access to these objects in order to have information from the objects and manipulate them. The hierarchy of browser objects is as shown in the graphic. A window is an object which contains one or more HTML documents. HTML document is an object which contains one or more forms. A form is an object which contains one or more elements, which could be a button, a checkbox, a text, etc. In order to access to objects, we should write all the path. For example, to access to a radio button in a form, we should write all the path from the beginning of the hierarchy till the radio button. All objects are separated by a point and window object is optional because browsers take by default the current window. JavaScript is not an object-oriented language, it's a language based on objects, which is different. Each object has properties and methods. Properties are characteristics and methods are actions. In order to access to properties, we write the object name followed by the property name separated by point. Example, the property checked could have a value true if a radio button is checked or false if it is not. All the path of objects is followed by the property. In order to access to methods, we write the object name followed by the method name. For example, to open a window, the method used is open, and it has two parentheses like any function. Every object has its specific properties and methods. This is an example of the use of properties and methods in order to display text. The object in question is document. The method or action or verb used here is write with two parentheses. Semicolon is very important at the end. Let's finish this module with this example of script. In this script, we can find one instruction with the method write. In the two parentheses, the text is put between quotes. The marker H1 in HTML is a code used in order to have a heading. We see here that we can use HTML in the script, and that's why one more time JavaScript is flexible. You can use HTML code in scripts, putting it between quotes.